And this one I have a very strong opinion on because I actually think that the quote unquote wide receiver one on this squad he's a bust candidate for me. And we'll talk about that in next week's episode on our thoughts on a bust candidate and some sleepers and stuff like
Join
that.
us next week on next week's episode.
But Brandon Aiyuk is another guy who is not getting a lot of love. To me, this guy right here is playing as a wide receiver one there. When you stripped away all the carries from Deebo Samuel, you stripped away all his involvement moving around from positions in the backfield to the side and changing up coverages for defenses and all that, and made him purely a receiver, it made it more difficult for him to create separation and get yardage, whereas Brandon Aiyuk is a pure receiver and had no issues doing that. And to me, I don't think you're going to see any difference from last year to this year. In fact, I think Deebo's continued to lose targets to both Aiyuk and to Kittle at the tight end spot.
Too.
I just think this team looks a lot better with a downfield passer, and we know what type of receiver Aiyuk is. He's a great downfield receiver. He's great hands, great 50-50 ball. And Deebo was not the downfield guy for these guys. He's a guy that you get the ball in space, kind of like a little bit like a Waddle, except, he's more built like A.J. Brown. So to me, I don't see it being a situation where both guys are going to kind of end up the same. In fact, I think Aiyuk overtakes him stats-wise this year, just like last year.
He did last year. The simple fact is Aiyuk is getting better and better, and Deebo's role is being diminished more and more. When they brought in Christian McCaffrey, it took away a lot of what they wanted Deebo to do.
Exactly.
So we saw less and less of what Deebo was running, and especially now that Elijah Mitchell's healthy, that they'll run Christian McCaffrey in the slot because McCaffrey's a better route runner than Deebo is.
Yep.
So they'll put McCaffrey in the slot, and they'll put Mitchell in the backfield.
Yeah.
And I just see that Deebo's value, and I called it last year. I said last year that Aiyuk was going to be the number one there. I said I called it. Aiyuk is a much more talented receiver. He's a better route runner. He's great in the red zone too. He gets open. He has down. He can do everything, and you see him getting better and better. You see what his teammates are saying about him. Like, you can't cover this guy in a phone booth. Like he's a phenomenal wide receiver, and he is a candidate to be in the top 10 receivers this year for me. And I don't care who's throwing them the football. I don't care if it's Purdy, Lance, or Sam Darnold. Doesn't matter. He's going to get open in this offense. I agree with you. I think Kittle's production is going to go up. I think Aiyuk's production is going to go up. And I just see Deebo. He's a great piece to have in that offense, but he is not a focal point.
When you have someone like Christian McCaffrey.
We're hanging our hat on 6 games that Deebo was phenomenal. And we're saying that this is what Deebo can be. He did it in 6 games. He didn't even do it that entire season. And we're saying he's this elite receiver. He wasn't even an elite receiver then in those 6 games. They used him as as a runner. And that's what made him elite. And they're just not using him that way anymore.
Well, yeah. I mean, he had 1, 2, 3, 4. I give him 6 games of 95 or more yards in 2021 that he, in terms of receiving, and then you added on the rushing that he did that year, which made him in standard a wide receiver number 2. But I'm talking about he hit 189, 171, 159. Like, he had some big games, but he had a lot of yak involved in there too as well. It wasn't like he was in he had a yards per target of 11 yards, which is great, but he had 18 yards per catch. I mean, so it was pure yak. But then really at the end of the day, the biggest glaring number, which has me having that as a bust candidate and why I like Aiyuk, is Aiyuk has almost a 9 yards per target on average. Last year, Deebo was under 7. He was 6.3, 6.4 or something. And when you look at those numbers there, that just tells you the routes that those guys are running. And if you're going to try and give Deebo a 6-yard, slant and the linebacker's on him, he's not going anywhere with the ball. And if you get a nickel corner on him, then and plus linebacker help, he's definitely not going anywhere. So then you look at Aiyuk, who may have one-on-one coverage with maybe no safety help or something like that because Kittle's coming over the middle and taking it away from him. It's going to be open. He's going to get over 100 targets again. He was wide receiver 15 in standard last year. There's a complete pathway to bring him into the top 12 this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he emerges as a wide receiver 1 this season. I wouldn't say he's going to be a top end. I don't see him going for 1,600 yards, but I do see him as being a wide receiver 1. I think his touchdown numbers go up. I think his receiving numbers are going to be around 1,200 to 1,300 yards. I just, in this offense you like because of the play action ability, and he's the deep guy in the play action.
Yeah.
And so that's why you have to love him.
Yeah. I mean, last year he finished with just over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. You add 200 more yards to that, and you give him another touchdown or 2, and you've got yourself inside the top 10 for wide receiver.
Again, I just see him being like, he's getting better and better. And the year that Deebo, and the 2021 when Deebo really emerged in that 6-game stretch where they really involved him in running the football. Aiyuk that year was not really involved in the offense. Remember the start of the season, he got benched because he was in the doghouse. But he's really come on in the later half of that season, and then this season or last season. And I expect that to continue this season, where he's going to really take the top off and really show the league that he deserves to be in that same category as these top end guys.
Well, and even that season, he still finished the season off with a 9 yards per target, again, almost 10, and he had a 14 3/4 yards per catch for Aiyuk and 5 touchdowns. I mean, he did the same. His stats between his rookie year, where he got put in the doghouse and didn't get much time because he was down in the depth chart, to sophomore year where he was in the doghouse to start the season, and then they came in. He's produced when he's been put in the games to play. And that last year he was put in the games to actually play, and he wasn't in a doghouse, and he truly started coming out with a bang. I think he's going to lead this receiving core. So
yeah.
that
props to my